After seeing people defend Russia's invasion of Ukraine and defend China's behavior with Taiwan, I thought, okay, at least with North Korea, we can all agree, hopefully. Surely we can all agree that with the Korean conflict, North Korea is clearly the bad guy here, right? But nope, there are still some socialists out there running around claiming that North Korea is the good guy and it's actually America who's provoking and aggressing and escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula, and that North Korea is just defending itself against American imperialism. Here's the thing. North Korea is the one doing imperialism here. So if you're an anti-imperialist, stop defending North Korea. Why am I saying that North Korea is imperialist? North Korea wants to expand its borders by force through invading and occupying and annexing South Korea's land. That's the definition of imperialism. You can't get more imperialist than that. Stealing another country's land to make yourself bigger and more powerful. That's what imperialism means. And why is North Korea the aggressor here? Well, North Korea keeps saying things like, we will destroy the South, we will utterly annihilate the South, we will conquer the South, we will take the South by force. North Korea has been threatening to use nuclear weapons against South Korea. North Korea just said that war is inevitable. North Korea has been firing ballistic missiles over Japan for years. And North Korea just fired 200 artillery rounds in the direction of a South Korean island, causing South Korea to evacuate the 1,000 people living on that island. This is all provocation. This is aggressive behavior. What's America been doing? Oh, it has some military bases stationed in South Korea. And guess what? South Korea wants that military base there because South Korea wants America to protect it from a North Korean invasion. The American and South Korean army have been doing joint military training drills in South Korea. And North Korea is calling that aggression. North Korea is calling that imperialism. Military drills are something that everyone does. A lot of countries do joint military training exercises with other countries. America does this, Russia does it, China does it, India does it. Lots of countries' militaries do training with other countries' militaries. That's not an act of aggression. That's an act of cooperation, of countries trying to work together and help each other's militaries. South Korea wants America to be training its soldiers so that it can be prepared to fend off a North Korean attack. Even my country, South Africa, did joint military training drills with Russia and China last year. But then Botswana next door didn't go shouting, oh, this is imperialism, oh, South Africa is provoking us, they're being aggressive, oh, Russia and China, they're doing imperialism in our backyard. We need to build as many nuclear weapons as possible because South Africa is being aggressive. Which one is more aggressive and provocative? America doing training with South Korea's military, or North Korea verbally saying, we will invade you, we will bomb you, we will destroy you, and then firing missiles over Japan and firing missiles into South Korea's waters? I don't understand why people are framing this conflict as America's causing trouble again. What do you think would happen if America just left and withdrew from this conflict? North Korea would immediately invade, as they're always saying they're going to. What would happen if America just abandoned South Korea? South Korea would immediately be invaded by the North, it would be bombed and reduced to rubble, and then it would be forcibly annexed into the North. That sounds like imperialism to me. It sounds more imperialist than America just doing training with South Korea. If America's being imperialist by just being friends with South Korea and working with South Korea, then North Korea is being imperialist by threatening to attack and invade South Korea, bomb it to nothing, and then take all its land. Either you'd have to acknowledge that America is not being imperialist while North Korea is, or you'd have to say that America and North Korea are both being imperialist, but American imperialism is much more preferable for the South because American imperialism over South Korea doesn't involve America bombing South Korea to shit, or massacring South Koreans or putting them in slave labor camps, which is what Kim Jong-un does to the North Koreans. The terrible American imperialism in South Korea has resulted in South Korea being one of the richest countries in the world and one of the most democratic countries in the world. What is North Korea? A totalitarian dictatorship with the worst human rights record in the world and with one of the poorest populations who have no access to food or electricity. You think the South Koreans would really prefer that over what they currently have? And do you think the South Koreans would really like to have the North rolling on in with their tanks and nuclear weapons and force them to become part of this backwards, food-starved dystopia? While North Korea doesn't have elections, the South does, and South Koreans always vote in pro-American and anti-North Korean governments. So even if America is doing imperialism here, which it's not, the South Koreans clearly seem to prefer this terrible American imperialism compared to North Korean imperialism. And America's not escalating the conflict because, if anything, America's presence on the peninsula actually prevents war. Because if America wasn't around, North Korea would immediately attack and conquer the South, because the South would be too weak to defend itself. Whereas America being around actually deters the North from invading because the North's too afraid to go to war with America because, well, it's America. And so America is actually keeping South Korea secure. Whereas North Korea is the one who's constantly threatening nuclear war, invasion, annexation, and is firing artillery shells towards a South Korean island. So if you're going to blame someone for this conflict, then blame North Korea because they're the aggressor here. Whereas America is the one doing everything they can to prevent a North Korean invasion of the South. I've seen a few socialists on Twitter saying they'd love to see the North rule the entire peninsula and that South Korea belongs to Kim Jong-un or whatever, and they hope North Korea wins the war and reconquers the South. And it's ironic because left-wingers always talk about how much they care about people of color, but then they're also cheering on North Korea, a country which enslaves and starves millions of North Koreans, and is also threatening to conquer South Korea and make 50 million South Koreans just as poor and miserable and oppressed as the North Koreans. How can you be a left-winger who supports freedom and rights for people of color, but then you're happy to see 50 million Asians in South Korea be enslaved and tortured and massacred? That doesn't add up. The math isn't mathing. So if you're against war and you're against imperialism, you should be opposing North Korea's threats to annex the South, and you should be supporting America's attempts to defend the security of South Korea.